is a great sin. Even to touch them is a sin, and you must wash yourself clean, very thoroughly. If by accident some Wahhabi, grazes past you. So all this done and said, now Maulana turns to their marriage ceremony and the rules and regulations regarding their marriages. So he says, to permit them to marry among you is of course out of question, is inconceivable. But to permit them to be married among other sects, even that is inconceivable. Not among Muslims, of course. But he says then, it's not enough. I have not yet told you everything about it. They are not permitted to marry among other religions either. For instance, among Hindus or Sikhs, if they marry any woman born out of a woman, that marriage would be illegal according to Islam. Now, leaving human beings aside, even if they choose to marry ultimately, because the human beings are now out of bounds for them, even if they marry some animal and a child somehow is born, that child will be an illegitimate child. And the words he uses are very full-throated words to that. So that child will not inherit the father because he is an illegitimate child. Now he says that if somebody wonders why all this and somebody begins to suspect the validity of this verdict, all this verdict would be applicable to him. And if someone suspects the validity of this applying to him who suspects, then everything would apply to him as well. This is their attitude towards the so-called Wahhabis and the Hadithis in fact. And now they have joined hands against Ahmadis and say that we are all one Muslims, belonging to one large Muslim society, and the Ahmadis are outside the faith of Islam. Imagine their attitude to religion and their integrity and all they stand for. In fact, during the 74, I told one of the BPP leaders who was responsible for running this affair, this show I should have said, I told him, look here, if I'm telling you this, you can ask Maulana Noorani about this. And what would be your position? If he would turn back to you and say, do you suspect? If you suspect, all this is applicable to you. So, after all this, how can you say that all the Muslims have joined hand and it is their considered opinion and the verdict, a unanimous verdict against Ahmadis, while there is no unanimous verdict against anybody else? This was his plea. So I said the fact is that the unanimous verdict can be established if I took some evidence with me. If you take up the fatwa, the verdicts, official verdicts of these religious scholars, one after the other, taking for instance the case of the Shiites, all the rest of the sects have at one time or another declared them as Pakka Kafirs. So although they didn't sit together jointly to declare that, the verdict is unanimous. At different times, different scholars have given the verdict, and this is the official verdict which has never been denied. Similarly is the case of every other sect. Each sect has been officially declared as Pakka Kafir by other sects at various times and by such leaders as it is impossible for the mullah of today to deny their authenticity. They stand so high in a position of respect in their respective sects. These are the dogmatic differences. Yes, please.
This question which I'm going to ask is behalf of
Why is it not there?
Well, it's far away from there than
Otherwise, go back.
yes. Yeah. We want to better.
That's common.
No, he lives in New Malden. Yeah, he lives in New Malden somewhere.
New Malden is not very modern.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, the question is, the ark of Hazrat Noah ﷺ was finally stopped against the mountain of Judi, mentioned in the Holy Quran, but probably it's different in Bible. It's probably Ararat. Recently, probably American specialists tried to find out this ark, whether they. Can you kindly explain whether this ark can be traced again?
Would be anybody's guess. The fact is that it was a wooden ark, this we know, and it is generally very, very remote hope of a wooden ark of that age to be found intact. Unless, of course, if it is buried in deep snow at some mountain which is generally buried in snow. This is why the expeditions which have been searching for the said ark have always gone up to great heights to discover this ark. For two reasons. Number one, those expeditions have always been influenced by the Bible. And according to the biblical story, it was on the very top of the mountain that ultimately that ark landed. And that mountain was so high that the entire world around had been disappeared in water, and only the very small mountain top was visible. So this is why they go. And second reason is that the only hope of finding the ark would be in a place where there is extreme cold and things like ordinary wood could be preserved. In extremely low temperatures, the chances of preservation are fairly high. For instance, recently in Russia, in Siberia, they found an elephant child buried in deep snow, which was supposed to be about a few 100,000 years old. And his flesh was so fresh that they ate some of it. And it was absolutely all right, just like ordinary deep frozen meat. So this is the quality of cold, extreme cold. Because the temperatures there never touch zero. They're always much below zero. So there is no question of any destructive natural phenomena to act upon that. Similarly, that ark, if at all it landed at a mountain top that high, which is always a snowbound mountain, in that case, of course, it would be acceptable. It is possible that it can be discovered. But according to my study of the Holy Quran, this is very remote. Because the Holy Quran does not say a flood that high which covered the entire surface of the earth, and as I explained it earlier, it is impossible anyway. But for a flood to have been born in the Middle East and have gone across the Pacific Ocean to the Fiji Islands and to Japan, this is just mythical, and the Holy Quran never claims this. So the biblical concept is different, but the Holy Quran is very distinct about it. It is only a small area, the people of Noah, which were drowned. That we know. And before Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, there was no universal prophet, Noah or whatever his name be. After the initiation of religion, it was only Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alaihi wasallam who was